Oil is used for a variety of purposes, like fuel, heating oil, and it's even part of asphalt. Humans have gone to greater lengths to find and pump oil. Pumping oil is a dangerous process because of the pressure released. There have been oil spills since the early 20th century, and they have only become more devastating, often destroying the ecosystems of the communities nearby and costing nations millions to clean up.
This chart represents the typical products made from a barrel of crude oil. While the jet fuel and gasoline percentages are at their highest, the diesel fuel percentage can be increased drastically.
On March 6, 1937, the SS Frank H. Buck was severely damaged when it collided with the SS President Coolidge. Almost all of the 67,000 barrels of oil were salvaged. No injuries or deaths were reported.
On April 20th, 2010, an explosion and fire on the BP-operated drilling rig, Deepwater Horizon, killed 11 workers. Thousands of gallons of oil began gushing into the Gulf of Mexico from the blown-out well. Around 4.9 million barrels, plus or minus 10%, spilled out into the Gulf of Mexico before it was sealed. On July 15, 2010, BP managed to stanch the leak after 85 days. On November 15, 2012, BP agreed to pay $4.5 billion in a settlement with the U.S. government over the massive 2010 oil spill, and to plead guilty to the felony counts related to the deaths of 11 workers and lying to Congress. The figure includes nearly $1.3 billion in criminal fines, the largest such penalty ever, along with payments for several government entities. 2 BP well site leaders are charged with manslaughter, and a former executive is charged with lying to authorities.
On March 24, 1989, shortly after midnight, the oil tanker Exxon Valdez struck Bligh Reef in Prince William Sound, Alaska, spilling more than 11 million gallons of crude oil. The spill was the largest in U.S. history at that time. Burning mechanical cleanup and chemical dispersants were used to try and clean the spill. In the aftermath of the Exxon Valdez incident, Congress passed the Oil Pollution Act of 1990, which required the Coast Guard to strengthen its regulations on oil tank vessels and oil tank owners and operators.
As Iraqi troops withdrew from Kuwait at the end of the First Gulf War in 1991, they set fire to over 650 oil wells and damaged many more, just south of the Iraq border.
According to a 2009 study published in Disaster Prevention and Management, firefighting crews from 10 countries, part of a response team that comprises approximately 11,450 workers from 38 countries, used familiar and also never-before-tested technologies to put out the fires.
An estimated 1 to 1.5 billion barrels of oil was released into the environment. After most burned, 25 to 40 million barrels ended up spreading across the desert, and 11 million barrels in the Persian Gulf. According to a 2012 paper published in Remote Sensing of Environment, cleanup efforts have removed 21 million barrels of oil in the desert, but an estimated 1 million barrels still remain.
The yellow line represents the border between Iraq and Kuwait. The first picture is before, the middle picture is during, and the last picture is after the oil fires.
Since oil is a fossil fuel that has to be burned, the chemical reaction releases exhaust gases which harm the environment. If we were to use renewable resources as power sources for vehicles, we would eliminate the primary need for oil. If there is no need for oil, then there would not be a market, and oil companies would not invest in further oil rigs and shut down existing ones.